What's the funniest backfire you've seen from strict workplace policies? Back in 2017, I was in my third year of an accounting job that had worn me down to the point where I felt like I was just going through motions. I didn't enjoy the work, the environment, or the industry. The only thing that kept me there was the fact that I was teaching myself programming on the side, slowly getting ready to move into a different career. Until I could make that jump, I was stuck under a boss who made every workday feel heavier than it needed to be. My boss, let's call her Tia, had been with the company since the beginning and acted like that earned her permanent authority. She had a strong, unshakable confidence, and the executives loved that. Every time the company expanded, she slid into a new leadership role. The company even paid for her training so she could qualify for whatever title she wanted next. None of it made her easier to work with. She gave me 3 straight annual reviews so low that they justified blocking any raises, but they were never low enough to actually let me go. As a result, I became the lowest paid person in the entire company, including interns. Learning that broke whatever loyalty I had left. I still did the job, but mentally I was already leaving. During a restructuring, a new CFO was hired instead of promoting Tia. She also lost control of HR when it became its own department. To rebuild her influence, she convinced the company to pay for her to attend law school so she could later oversee accounting, HR, and legal. This meant she left work mid-afternoon for classes and stayed unreachable until late in the evening. A new management level was added between us, and several people filtered through it quickly. But for a brief time, I worked under a manager named Kevin. He was the only one who treated the team with respect. Even though he still had to carry out Tia's directives, he tried to make things run smoothly and brought some sanity to the process. Around then, news broke of a new rule. Salaried employees earning under $40,000 a year would qualify for overtime pay. My salary was about $37,500. In accounting, overtime had always been part of the job. Month end and quarter end regularly pushed us well over 50 hours a week. But after years of being undervalued, I stuck to my required 40 unless something critical happened. Once I knew the new rule was coming, I planned ahead. I didn't want it to look like I suddenly changed my habits, so I gradually increased my hours over a couple months. Soon, I was consistently logging 45 to 55 hours a week. A good portion of that extra time was me quietly connecting to my home computer to practice coding. But the company didn't know that. Eventually, someone noticed. Kevin called me into a conference room and handed me a contract Tia wanted me to sign. It said I couldn't work overtime without her written approval. The paper had no dates, no references to the upcoming rule, and no limitations. The moment I read it, I realized it gave me a way out of working extra hours altogether. I signed it on the spot. That same day, I left work early because I'd worked through lunch. The next day, I stopped showing up early, took full breaks, and left exactly at 5. Kevin noticed right away and reminded me the contract wasn't meant to apply until the rule took effect. I pointed out that the document didn't say that. He realized he had no argument. Later that week, a client request came in around 4:45. Normally, this meant staying late. Kevin asked if I could handle it, and I simply asked whether he had written approval from Tia. Since she was in law school and unreachable, he didn't. That was the moment he understood how restrictive the contract actually was. For the first time in years, I enjoyed a strict 40-hour work week. I didn't take on last-minute tasks, didn't stay late, and didn't feel guilty. Anytime someone tried to push more work on me near closing time, I referred them to the contract. Right before the new rule was scheduled to take effect, a judge blocked it. Overnight, the overtime eligibility disappeared. Employees everywhere felt the loss, but my contract still restricted my hours. Management tried to undo it, but the document was still valid. Eventually, Tia called me into her office. She explained that the contract was unnecessary now. I reminded her that it didn't reference the blocked rule and had no expiration. She tried to argue it didn't override my employment agreement. That suited me fine. My employment agreement stated a 40-hour week. A few months later, the CFO mentioned people thought I didn't care about my job. I told him honestly, I don't. Not long after, they let me go. I collected my severance and stepped into the new career I had prepared for. Today, I work from home, earn more, and live with far less stress. That contract, intended to control me, ended up giving me the breathing room I needed to move forward.